Marine Corps boot camp is probably the most degrading experience available to a person who does not plan on going to prison. Public perception of recruit training centers on images of physical challenge and young men pushed to their limit, becoming something harder than they were before. The Marine Corps spends a great deal of money on advertising to maintain this perception. It is an appealing image and one that flatters everyone involved. Those who have experienced it get to present themselves as having endured an almost superhuman trial, while the institution gets to portray itself as a proving ground for exceptional warriors. Most Marines are happy to leave this impression in place because it reflects well on us. The reality is not as exciting and also considerably more stupid. Boot camp is not, for the most part, physically difficult. It is designed to be passed, because a recruit who fails is a waste of the months of time and money that has already been spent getting him to this point. And so the bar is set at a level that an average person of below average determination will eventually graduate. While not difficult, the experience is uniquely miserable and degrading, for reasons which will be the focus of this video. I went through recruit training in 2014, and while some of what I describe may have since been reformed, renamed, or quietly discontinued, I doubt the essential character of the experience has changed much. A recruit's first few days on the depot are known as receiving week. There is no training during this period, and it mostly consists of standing still while being yelled at. Recruits are told that they are no longer permitted to use the first-person pronoun and must now refer to themselves in the third person as this recruit. This minor forced grammatical change is a remarkably effective way of suggesting to a person that he is no longer entirely himself. Even his call home is not really his own. A recruit lines up to make a brief phone call to his family to tell them that he has arrived alive. The words he is allowed to say are printed on a script posted on the wall, which is read aloud like a hostage statement.
Next time I contact you, I'll be my postal mail. I love you, goodbye.
The processing is tedious and bureaucratic, broken up by brief displays of institutional violence, the first of which is often a recruit's first haircut. Recruits are shaved bald in a matter of seconds by civilian barbers working in an assembly line. The clippers are run over the scalp with little attention to what is on it, and a recruit with a mole or skin tag will usually have it taken off by the blades along with the hair. It is not uncommon to see recruits with blood pouring down their faces as they are waved away by disinterested barbers working at speed. Over the following days, recruits will spend most of their waking hours being moved through an endless series of processing stations designed to take a human being and convert them into a series of data points that can be tracked on a spreadsheet.
Yes, sir. Come on, you say that. Yes, sir. No, sir.
They will be sized and fitted for their uniforms, issued gear, and be given various medical and dental exams and vaccinations. At this point, a recruit is beginning to learn something that will hold true for the remainder of his career in the military. The people with authority over him will come in two forms. The first are the military personnel, mainly drill instructors, who are selected from among the most capable Marines available and are bound by an extensive list of rules about what they may and may not do to a recruit. In practice, the requirements to become a drill instructor are not particularly high, and the rules are bent or broken at least as often as they are followed. But for the most part, the role of a drill instructor is a persona that he has been trained to perform, one which reveals very little of the real man underneath it. Typically, he is a sincere professional who believes in the values of the institution and takes his duties seriously. The job does allow for, and in fact requires, cruelty, but even that is usually just part of the performance. The second type of authority a recruit will encounter are civilian contractors, consisting of the barbers, tailors, and administrative staff who process recruits into the system. At first, a recruit is usually inclined to see them as a kind of safe harbor. They are not Marines, and they are not screaming at him. They look like ordinary adults, the sort of people who, in the world he left a few days ago, he would normally expect to treat him with common courtesy or even sympathy. In reality, the civilian employees are the inverse of the drill instructors in almost every sense. They are held to no standard, hold no values, and their behavior is a direct reflection of the real person. For most of them, the petty authority they are allowed to wield over a frightened, bald teenager is the most authority they will wield over anyone. They carry an air of weary contempt, as though the recruit has personally inconvenienced them by requiring the services that they are paid to provide. To the recruit, this is the first sign of his new status. He will be routinely humiliated and treated with contempt by the most insignificant employees on the depot, and he has no recourse at all. There is no longer anyone whose job it is to care how he is treated. Up until this point, recruits have been shepherded around by people with no real stake in them. Receiving platoons are overseen by temporary drill instructors, rotated out of the standard training cycle and assigned to a lighter duty to prevent burnout. These drill instructors are correspondingly less aggressive, and a recruit who does not give them a good reason will usually pass through the first few days without much incident. This changes when recruits are assigned to a training company and meet their permanent drill instructors. The recruits sit on the deck of the squad bay and are addressed by their company commander.
My name is Captain McShane, and I'm your series commander. I will now introduce to you the drill instructors who are responsible to me for your training.
He turns around and gives the drill instructors a formal order: take charge of these recruits and make them into Marines. At this point, the drill instructors set about destroying the squad bay. All the gear and clothing that was so carefully inventoried and issued over the previous days is turned out and thrown everywhere. The platoon is ordered to run from one end of the squad bay to the other. The order to shift back comes before the crowd has fully arrived on the first side, so that 90 bodies are constantly reversing direction all at once, colliding and crashing into each other and tripping over the bed frames and trash strewn across the floor. Eventually, the platoon is ordered to begin gathering up the gear one piece at a time until every recruit has the issued gear back in the right quantities. Some minor infraction will be identified, and everything is dumped out and thrown around again, and the whole process starts over. Drill instructors move constantly through the squad bay, up and down the main hallway and the back rows, weaving between beds and appearing beside recruits. A recruit is told to pick up his bag. He picks it up and is told to dump it out. He dumps it out and is told to put everything back. He bends over and is told to scream. He screams and is told to go away. He goes away and is told to come back. He comes back and is told to pick up his bag. He picks it up and is told to dump it again. At some point, the idea of keeping up stops meaning anything. There is no longer any stable reality to keep up with. In movies and pop culture, the drill instructor is usually portrayed as a stern figure of controlled menace or old-school military machismo. The reality is much more surreal. Drill instructors are basically grotesque cartoon characters that move and speak with peculiar mannerisms, which are difficult to describe to people who have not encountered it in person. Their throat has been destroyed from months of sustained screaming. Most drill instructors have lost their normal voice entirely and are trained to speak with their ventricular folds located above the vocal cords, the same muscles used by Mongolian throat singers. This results in a low, raspy croak forced out at full volume through a throat that no longer works. This is referred to as a drill instructor's frog voice. Because recruits must keep eyes front and are forbidden from looking directly at drill instructors, they seem to appear out of thin air, and a recruit can go from being alone to surrounded on all sides in a matter of seconds. Depending on its size, a platoon will have 3 or 4 drill instructors who operate in a fixed hierarchy. At the top is the senior drill instructor.
My name is Staff Sergeant Toronto, and I am your senior drill instructor.
The senior drill instructor generally stays out of the day-to-day affairs of the platoon, emerging to call the other instructors away or intervene when punishments have gone on for too long.
We know we are now! Yes, sir! Are we strong? Yes, sir!
Accordingly, the platoon tends to experience him as a kind of father figure, although this is not a fixed rule. The role gives them the option to hold back, but not the obligation. Below the senior drill instructor is the heavy hat, sometimes called the J hat or the drill hat. He teaches marching, close order drill, and squad bay procedures, and is generally the one who oversees and handles the recruits the most. Below the heavy is a knowledge hat, who is responsible for teaching recruits the Marine Corps knowledge that they are expected to memorize and recite on command. At the bottom is the junior-most drill instructor, known as the kill hat, who is responsible for enforcing discipline and punishing recruits. It is tempting to cast the drill instructor as the villain of this story, but in many respects he's closer to a fellow victim. His is one of the worst jobs in the entire Marine Corps. He works 18-hour days, 7 days a week, waking up hours before the recruits and going to sleep long after them. His daily responsibility is the custody of 90 incompetent and often diseased teenagers in a role that falls somewhere between cattle herder, prison warden, and special education teacher, while destroying his voice, his health, and quite often his marriage in the process. He is also under enormous pressure from above. Junior drill instructors are often hazed by those who rank higher than them, which is known as hat hazing. It is sometimes carried out so openly that it becomes obvious even to the recruits that their kill hat is being bullied right in front of them. All night, every night, some recruits in the platoon are kept awake to stand fire watch. guarding the squad bay against intruders or recruits attempting to escape or harm themselves. The night is divided into 1-hour shifts, and each shift consists of 4 recruits. One stands the front post near the door, accounting for who comes and goes in a logbook. The other 3 will spend their shift mopping and sweeping, scrubbing the toilets, and patrolling up and down the hallways. Those unlucky enough to be assigned fire watch on their first night are harassed constantly as drill instructors come in and out screaming at them while the rest of the platoon attempts whatever sleep they can. In the morning, a recruit does not dress himself. He is dressed on command by the drill instructors, along with the entire platoon, by putting on 1 article of clothing at a time on command.
Not done yet. Why? Hurry it up!
Bathroom breaks are conducted as a group on a schedule as compressed as anything else. Recruits will triple or double up on a urinal while the drill instructor counts them down. Showers are conducted via wagon wheel, a line of recruits trudging a slow circle through alternating scalding hot and freezing cold shower heads as the recruits on duty squirt soap at them. Recruits are made to memorize great volumes of material: general orders, rank structures, facts about their service rifle, Marine Corps history, all of which is referred to as knowledge. Whenever a platoon is waiting in line or gets left alone for a few moments while a drill instructor must step away, a designated recruit known as a prac recruit will lead the rest in call-and-response knowledge drills, the function of which is both educational and to prevent fraternization by filling all downtime with cacophonous noise. Anytime the platoon does not meet the impossibly high expectations, or simply as a way of killing time, recruits are given absurd and exhausting tasks, which are colloquially referred to as fuck games. These include undressing and getting fully dressed again repeatedly, sweeping the floors in a bizarre crouched waddle, or holding out heavy objects such as their duffel bag or footlocker at arm's length. Individual punishments come in the form of incentive training, or IT, which is dispensed liberally for offenses both real or imagined, or simply by pulling unlucky recruits at random. Incentive training bears little resemblance to the stereotypical image of a drill instructor yelling "drop and give me 20. It consists of repetitive exercises, constantly alternated at a rapid pace. A recruit will be ordered to do push-ups, but before his chest touches the floor, the command will change to jumping jacks. As soon as he starts jumping, the command changes to mountain climbers, then flutter kicks, lunges, and back to push-ups until the recruit is pushed to the point of total physical exhaustion. A particularly unpleasant variation of incentive training is known as a sugar cookie, in which a recruit is made to slather himself in sunscreen before being IT'd in the sand pits outside, leaving him caked in a sticky mixture of sand and sweat for the rest of the day. During these early days of training, a platoon will quickly sort itself into several categories of recruits. On one end of the spectrum are high performers. At the other end are those known as boogers, the weakest, slowest, or otherwise least capable recruits in the platoon. Most recruits fall somewhere in the middle. But cutting across the spectrum is another axis, consisting of those who believe the standards being enforced are real and achievable, and respond by spending every ounce of effort trying to meet it. And those who have worked out that they are being set up to fail regardless of performance, that no level of effort will save them from punishment, and that the smarter option is to conserve energy and produce only the appearance of effort. These recruits have understood the situation correctly, but this is dangerous because the drill instructors are expert at spotting recruits who are phoning it in, and their attention, once drawn, does not go away. Over time, recruits in the first category will come to hate recruits in the second, because under a regime of collective punishment, one recruit being singled out becomes everyone's problem. This has the reliable effect of turning the majority viciously against any recruit who is singled out first. In my platoon, this recruit was me. While physically fit, I was slow and clumsy during countdown games, and awkward at drill. When corrected with incentive training, I treated it as an annoyance to be endured rather than letting myself be burnt out. Within the first week of training, the entire platoon knew my name, because they were required to thank me by name every time they were being punished alongside me. There is a particular horror in realizing that out of 90 other people, you are the one who has been identified as the main problem. At this point, I made a pivot to showing maximum effort, but it was too late. A recruit who earns this reputation early will be singled out and set up to fail, regardless of how hard he tries. There is no correcting past this point. The primary thing that is built up over the course of boot camp is not strength or discipline. It is a small, closed society with its own hierarchy and politics. And the society it builds is a stupid one.
Vamos! Yes, sir! Who wants this shit? This is good, sir!
During the first few days of training, several recruits will be pulled out, given titles, and set over the rest. There is a guide who carries the platoon's flag during drill and is nominally in charge of the entire platoon.
Hold that stick the way you were damn tall. Were you taught any way to hold it? No, sir! Get! Like this! Look! Yes, sir!
The guide is a perpetually beleaguered figurehead, held accountable for all of the failures of the platoon while possessing no means of correcting them.
How you know what the frick I'm doing if you ain't freaking paying attention?
Below him are 4 squad leaders, each in charge of a squad comprised of between 15 and 25 recruits. Squad leaders have even less authority, but try all the harder to prove themselves.
What are you doing? Just laying your freaking head down on the mattress and sleeping? Fucking do something!
They become feeble imitations of their drill instructors, permanently at odds with their own squad.
What's your name, recruit?
Essentially, the recruit leadership is a regime of petty tyrants, all in constant competition with one another for a chance to replace the guide, who, for his troubles, usually receives a meritorious promotion at the end of training. Presiding over the economy of the platoon is a quieter figure, the scribe, a recruit assigned to keep track of various rosters and paperwork on behalf of the drill instructors. This is a very desirable role, as the scribe will spend a significant amount of time doing administrative work and skip much of the daily unpleasantries of recruit training. The scribe is also the only recruit in the platoon who wields any real power. He is in charge of writing the firewatch list and has absolute authority to decide who will stand watch through the night and at what time. Our scribe was a small, scrawny black kid named Burke. I hated him with a passion. Many scribes will implement a simple, fixed system for assigning firewatch. For example, alphabetical order or simply rotating down the line of beds. Burke was entirely arbitrary. He assigned shifts to those he disliked while exempting himself and those closest to him. Sleep is the most valuable commodity a recruit has, and our scribe took it away according to his preferences. To make matters worse, Burke was intelligent. He understood that a punitive 2-hour watch, assigned as the second shift, could destroy a recruit's entire night. Recruits are woken for their shift at least 15 minutes early to give them time to get dressed and report for duty. A recruit who knows he has the second shift is likely to be unable to sleep, knowing that he will soon be shaken awake. In any platoon, several recruits will develop a reputation for being difficult or even violently hostile to wake up. If Burke disliked you, he would select your eventual replacement from among these recruits, costing you another 20 minutes and occasionally a violent altercation in the dark. Factor in the time needed to undress and fall asleep afterwards, and this could cost a recruit the better part of 4 hours of sleep in a night. This happened to me nearly every night. Because my name was known to the drill instructors, it was known to Burke. For him, it was just a name that he knew as causing trouble somewhere in the platoon. That was enough. One night, in a state of quiet rage at Burke, I took a pair of tailor scissors and cut his bootlaces while he slept. The next morning, as everyone was being dressed by the numbers, he was left struggling. Burke requested permission to speak to our kill hat and attempted to snitch. "Someone cut this recruit's bootlaces, sir." Our kill hat looked at the damage and remarked, "Huh, guess someone really hates you." Burke spent the rest of the day running around with loose boots. By the second week, recruits are beginning to settle into a routine, and the reality starts to sink in that they will spend the next 3 months of their life in a state of near constant exhaustion, isolation, and abuse. This is made worse by the fact that recruits will spend large stretches of boot camp extremely sick. Crowded squad bays and constant sleep deprivation and stress are ideal conditions for disease. Most recruits will avoid going to sick call, both because it is seen as an admission of weakness in a system designed to punish it, and also because a recruit found too ill to continue training can be pulled from his platoon and transferred to a medical rehabilitation platoon before resuming training, adding weeks to his sentence. Quitting is an option, but it is made deliberately difficult, and a recruit who is eventually permitted to quit is not sent straight home. He is instead moved to a separate holding platoon, where unfit recruits are processed out on a slow administrative timeline that can take over a month. Both medical rehabilitation platoons and separation platoons are notorious as stagnant, depressing places held to the same discipline but without any purpose. Recruits in these platoons are held there indefinitely while being treated just as poorly as when in training, minus any of the structure or forward momentum that makes it bearable.
Hi, sir.
The calculation for most recruits ends up being pretty simple. Endure what is offered or risk extending it. During the first few weeks of training, the pressure is constant. Under these conditions, the personality contracts into something small and defensive, concerned exclusively with avoiding attention and surviving until lights out. Eventually, the tension begins to thaw somewhat. The drill instructors do not become kinder, but the overall intensity is dialed down, and the intervals between major collective punishments become longer. The effect this has on the platoon does not occur all at once. Some recruits remain entirely in survival mode. Others cautiously begin to emerge from it, which creates a peculiar kind of social friction. One recruit may venture a small remark to the recruit next to him. The other recruit may stare straight ahead and pretend not to hear him, or hiss for him to shut up before someone hears.
Shut up. We're talking. Shut up.
To one, the danger has begun to recede. For the other, it remains immediate and absolute. On Sundays, religious services are offered, and which one a recruit chooses to attend is as much about personal faith as it is about tactics, because church means a temporary break from the drill instructors and a precious opportunity to nap. The Protestant service involves loud modern worship music and energetic preaching. The Catholic service is quieter, but riskier. The rumor was that the priest takes his job seriously, and recruits caught nodding off were liable to be returned to the custody of their drill instructors. At the time, I was not religious, and on my first Sunday, I chose to go to the Buddhist service because it had the reputation for being easiest to sleep through. Our killhat was responsible for marching the platoon to each service, but once the Protestants and Catholics split off, he realized he didn't know where to find the others. Frustrated that his own brief window of free time was being eaten into, he yelled something about some religion being better than no religion, and dropped the rest of us off with the Mormons. The Mormon chaplain was apologetic and told us that we were welcome to sit in the back and do whatever we wanted, as long as we didn't fall asleep. By this point, I was sick, miserable, and largely hated by the rest of my platoon. A recruit who is targeted early can fall into a death spiral. The constant punishments create exhaustion. Exhaustion leads to more mistakes, and mistakes mean more punishment. I sat in the back of the service, hacking my lungs out and drafting a pessimistic letter back home. One of the recruits who got stuck in the Mormon service with me was named Olivas. At some point, he slid next to me and slipped me a Hall's cough drop. In the economy of boot camp, these are worth their weight in gold. We talked quietly for a while, and at some point I must have asked him why he was being nice to me. He told me that he saw recruits way worse than me who were flying under the radar. I learned he was racked next to a recruit named Green, who he had a particular disdain for. Eventually, he said, "They'll figure out who the real shitbags are." The economy of boot camp is basically a permanent shortage of everything. Essential gear goes missing constantly, and the only way to get something back is to take it from someone else. Theft is constant, both between individual recruits, but also between platoons. Drill instructors will frequently raid other squad bays in a continuous game of musical chairs so as not to be the ones caught missing something during an inspection. It is from these drill instructors that recruits will learn the preferred military euphemism for this practice. Gear is never stolen, it is tactically acquired. Implicit in this is an understanding that whoever you acquired it from probably acquired it in this manner from somebody else anyway. A common saying in the Marine Corps is that there is only one thief in the Corps. Everyone else is just trying to get their stuff back. Through a combination of getting to know the recruits in my immediate vicinity while at the same time doing whatever I could to show more visible effort, I slowly began to salvage some of my reputation. The drill instructors no doubt noticed this, but they did not care. A recruit who earns their attention early will never lose it, and I continued to be singled out and IT'd as much as anyone else. But true to what Olivas had predicted, the platoon was beginning to identify other problem recruits, and the abuse was being distributed more evenly among us. The recruits closest to me in the squad bay were beginning to learn that, whatever my deficiencies as a recruit, I at least had a sense of humor and didn't complain much. This carries a fair amount of social value in an environment where everyone is miserable, and so my standing began to improve somewhat among the recruits closest to me. The scribe, unfortunately, was not one of them, and he continued to put me on 2-hour firewatch shifts nearly every night. Eventually, recruits who have lost the word I will begin thinking and speaking as we, and as the weeks pass, a collective platoon identity will develop. Pride and shame stop being an individual currency and start attaching to the platoon's reputation as well. A platoon is one of 6 that make up a training company, who train on the same schedule and sleep in adjacent squad bays close by. Contact between platoons is almost non-existent. For most of training, the other 5 exist entirely as background extras, identical bald heads glimpsed a few meters away but never spoken to. The company commander grades all platoons against each other on metrics such as drill proficiency and physical fitness. The highest scoring platoon will graduate as the honor platoon, which carries no material benefit for the recruits but nonetheless reflects well on their drill instructors. A recruit who does not particularly care whether his platoon wins must keep this fact to himself. Anyone seen as actively or passively sabotaging the platoon's chances of success is known as a terrorist. Drill instructors will focus most of their wrath on a terrorist, engineering situations where he is likely to be injured, dropped to a medical platoon, and become someone else's problem.
All the rage and aggression you have in your body needs to come out on that recruit right there. You don't know him, do you? No, sir. So there's no reason to fucking like him, is there?
Go get him! Kill him!
Why did you stop? Why did you stop? Did you hear him? No, you didn't. You were being a little fairy. You didn't want to hurt him because you're sweet and nice and you don't want to freaking kill.
Unsurprisingly, this collective identity also breeds hostility for anyone the platoon doesn't recognize as one of its own. When recruits in a medical rehabilitation platoon finally recover from injuries, they are folded back into a standard platoon to resume training. One day, as our platoon sat cross-legged on the floor receiving a class from our senior drill instructor, a new recruit was transferred in from MRP. We were told that he had been on the depot for over a year due to a fractured hip. At a moment when the drill instructor was looking away, one recruit caught the eye of the newcomer and flipped him the middle finger. We snickered. He nodded and hung his head with a dead-eyed indifference. By the end of the first month, many of the indignities of boot camp have begun to feel normal.
Get all out right now.
The drill instructors cease to be seen as terrifying monsters and start to become an unavoidable fact of life, and eventually a role model to be emulated.
Go on.
Because Marine culture passes slang down through generations, drill instructors speak with a bizarre mix of hyper-specific military jargon and acronyms and strangely preserved slang from many decades ago, all of which is picked up and emulated by their recruits.
Stapler.
Yes, sir. Mission accomplished, yes, sir.
What? Mission accomplished, yes, sir.
A loose thread sticking out of a uniform is called an IP, which stands for Irish Pennant. IPs are also said to be terrorists because they sabotage uniform inspections. A recruit who marches with an uneven, bouncing gait is told to stop diddy-bopping. A slow or weak recruit is said to be heinous, which many recruits and in fact drill instructors have misheard and will continue to mispronounce as anus for their entire career. When giving direction, a drill instructor may remind recruits that it would behoove you to listen closely, which is also frequently mispronounced or typed in written orders as it would be who of you. A perfectly made bed or starched and ironed uniform can be said to be either squared away or tight. A flawlessly executed drill movement is also tight. Anything a drill instructor thinks looks cool, for example, a Punisher skull tattoo overlaid with the American flag, is also said to be tight. Seven weeks in, with the platoon now in Phase 2 of training, West Coast recruits will board a bus and be driven about an hour to Camp Pendleton for rifle marksmanship training. While at Pendleton, the squad will stay in a new squad bay with new rackmates. At this time, I developed a plan to position myself as the scribe's rackmate, for the duration of our time in Pendleton. My goal was to use close proximity to soften his attitude toward me. By making myself as helpful to him as possible, I hoped to convince him that he had been too harsh in judging me and give me a much-needed break from Firewatch. As soon as we arrived in the new squad bay, I locked onto Burke with laser focus, tracking his every movement, and managed to secure the space next to him. He was not happy about this. Over the following days, I put out maximum and conspicuous effort. As we made our beds and got dressed each morning, I carried out my part with explosive intensity, and then took any opportunity I could to help Burke with his, always careful to appear helpful and efficient rather than patronizing. This turned out to be quite easy because, for all his talents as a scribe, Burke turned out to be a fairly lousy recruit who had fallen under the radar only by virtue of being racked in a less visible corner of our old squad bay. My scheming was successful, and over a day or two Burke began to warm up to me. One night, after lights out, he admitted that he had misjudged me up until this point. I smiled and told him it was no big deal, while privately seething that someone who had so callously deprived me of sleep for the last 50 days could be so nonchalant about it. I still hated him, but I held my tongue and did not stand another Firewatch for the rest of Phase 2. Over the next several weeks, recruits will spend most of their day out on the range, learning to shoot their rifles. By the standards of boot camp, it is a fairly laid-back time. There are obvious risks in providing 600 exhausted, depressed recruits with live ammunition. Accidental discharges are not uncommon, so to keep stress and confusion to a minimum, drill instructors are kept away from the range, and the marksmanship instructors generally treat recruits gently. I mostly remember the range from a quiet but persistent fear that several of the recruits walking around with me carrying loaded rifles might fit the profile of a mass shooter. One of these was Recruit MacLeod, a notorious terrorist from one of the other platoons, whose name and reputation had already spread to ours. MacLeod was very intelligent, but also arrogant and spiteful, and it soon became very clear to me why his platoon loathed him so much. Still, he was interesting to talk to, and although our personalities did not mesh, we seemed to develop a kind of begrudging respect for each other. At one point, while talking about the lives we left behind and what we would do during our 10 days of boot leave upon graduating, I made some offhanded comment about how I'd probably need to take a sheet of acid to process the trauma of it all, to which MacLeod responded with an unprompted lecture about the effects of LSD on the brain. Lunchtime on the range comes in the form of a packed brown bag lunch known as a bag nasty, which contains a ham sandwich, a hard-boiled egg, a fruit, packets of ketchup and mustard, and a juice carton. Every mealtime, the drill instructors would walk the recruits through the same ritual. Unwrap every item, put it into the bag, squeeze in the condiments and juice, and then mush it all up and drink it. This concoction is known as a recruit milkshake. Wherever feasible, I refused to do this, and would go through the motions while concealing my unwrapped and intact sandwich to eat later. This would draw the ire of some recruits around me who viewed avoidance of an indignity as a kind of betrayal. One night, while in my rack a few minutes after lights out, I heard my name screamed out from the quarterdeck. Still in my underwear, I was taken to the senior drill instructor's office and placed at the position of attention before him. He interrogated me about what I had talked about on the range that day, and it soon became clear to me that MacLeod, in a bid to curry favor with his drill instructors by proving how seriously he took military law, had reported me for my comment about taking acid. Admitting to drug use in the military means automatic separation. I was terrified, but was able to keep my bearing and stuck to a single talking point. This recruit believes that all recruits present understood it as a joke, sir. But if Recruit MacLeod did not understand it as a joke, this recruit acknowledges that he did the correct thing in reporting me. My senior drill instructor stared me down for a while, and then dismissed me with a stern reminder to be more careful what I said around people from now on. Before I left, he called me back one last time and gave me a final piece of advice. You will meet many, many recruit mechlers in the Marine Corps. During rifle training, the company is split in half. In the morning, one group will shoot, while the other is marched 500 yards down range to work in the pits, where they will spend the next 5 to 6 hours raising and lowering targets, marking hits, and repairing damage in between volleys. Work in the pits is chaotic and miserable. It is hot, bullets whiz a few feet over your head continuously, and the sliding frames used to raise and lower the targets are cumbersome and get stuck often. The targets are old and in a state of near total deterioration. Telling a miss from a hit on a shredded area of target is guesswork, and generally a recruit's score will be a complete fiction. Whether he passes or fails will come down to how charitable the recruit responsible for his target was feeling on that day.
All the traits that this crew believes he learned in the pit is honesty and integrity, sir.
One of the better jobs a recruit can have while in the pits is pasty duty. Whenever a target is hit, recruits patch the bullet holes using small stickers known as pasties. They come in 2 colors, matching the white and black regions of the target. Recruits working the targets will shout out for whichever color they're running low on, and the recruits on pasty duty sprint down the line to hand them out. By this point in training, recruits with a knack for mischief will have discovered one of the rare pleasures of boot camp. You can often amuse yourself by behaving extremely stupidly, and everyone will assume that someone is forcing you to do it. My partner and I on pasty duty conspired to split our inventory so that I carried only the white pasties and he carried only the black ones. Then, starting from opposite ends of the long line of targets, we began marching up and down the rows, stopping at each target individually to snap 90 degrees to face the pit crew, screaming, "White pasty recruit" or "Black pasty recruit" reporting for duty at the top of our lungs. Recruits who called for us because they actually needed pasties in that moment were ignored and forced to wait their turn as their targets were shot to tatters. Every time we passed each other in the middle of the line, we acknowledged one another with a ceremony of our own invention. Snapping to attention, I would scream, "Good afternoon, black pasty recruit." "Good afternoon, white pasty recruit," he would reply. Eventually, a range coach pulled us aside and marched us over to the nearest drill instructor. "Show him what you were just doing," he said. We sheepishly pantomimed it for them. The drill instructor watched, dumbfounded. "Who the fuck told you to do that?" One after the other, we replied, "This recruit was instructed but does not remember, sir." Not wanting to overrule the punishment of another drill instructor, he shrugged and told us to carry on. On the night before we left Camp Pendleton, we lay in our racks at the position of attention, waiting for our knowledge hat to give the order to tuck in for the night as he paced up and down the rows delivering a motivational speech in the dark. He told us that upon our return to San Diego, we'd be Phase 3 recruits well on our way to being Marines, and that in the next morning we would clean the squad bay spotless before leaving. A Marine, he said, always leaves things in better condition than when he found it. From my bed, I called out into the dark, "Accept Iraq, sir." At this time, the country was still in the middle of a bloody civil war following the withdrawal of US forces. Everything went completely still. I remember laying there realizing I had fucked up badly and just cost the entire platoon a night of sleep. After what felt like an eternity, the drill instructor scoffed. "Yeah," he reminisced. we fucked them up real good. At some point during training, the platoon will be gathered up for a time-honored tradition that every Marine I have ever met has experienced some variation of. The particular details always vary, but it involves an announcement of a major terrorist attack and subsequent declaration of war on ISIS, Iran, North Korea, or whichever geopolitical adversary happens to occupy the current news cycle. The recruits are told that the president has declared a national emergency. Those who enlisted as reservists are being switched to active duty, and everyone will be reassigned a combat role. Training will be accelerated, and upon graduation, the platoon will be deployed to the front lines. It is at this point that the recruits are told that anyone who does not feel ready for this can privately tell their senior drill instructor and will be processed out with an honorable discharge and full benefits. All of this, of course, is a lie. And any recruit who expects in good faith that the institution hold the terms of the enlistment contract it signed with him will be exposed to the platoon and shamed mercilessly as a coward who lacks the Marine Corps' 3 core values of honor, courage, and commitment. While nobody in my platoon fell for this, I've always found it noteworthy that any recruits shamed in this way are the ones with the courage to ask the institution to honor its own commitment. In addition to various physical fitness and marksmanship evaluations, recruits are also required to pass a written knowledge exam as a requirement to graduate. Every answer comes from the book that recruits have been memorizing for months, but drill instructors will also typically procure a copy of the answer sheet in advance and hand them out to the platoon along with the test, teaching them another common refrain in the Marine Corps: if you're not cheating, you're not trying. The final weeks of training go by quickly. They are just as chaotic and miserable as the rest, but there are few surprises by this point. Training culminates in a 3-day event known as the Crucible, where recruits hike for 45 miles under a full load of gear with little food or sleep. Along the way, they are stopped frequently for hazing sessions, which come in the form of teamwork challenges and other ordeals. The Crucible is generally depicted as the defining trial of recruit training, and the thing that recruits fear most. I don't really have much to say about it. It sucks, but time goes by quickly. After a final hike to the top of a mountain, recruits are given the title of Marine in a small ceremony. Drill instructors award them their Eagle Globe and Anchor, shake their hand, and address them as Marine for the first time. This is an emotional moment for all recruits. Most of us teared up a bit. A row ahead of me, I watched our knowledge hat drop Recruit Green's EGA in the dirt, while muttering that he hopes he gets blown up by an IED. A few days later, the company graduates in a ceremony attended by their families. One recruit fainted from heat exhaustion, smashing his jaw on the concrete as he went down. The formation held until the ceremony concluded, as the crowd screamed for someone to help.